if there's one reason for you to watch us and learn about cricket, is because we have no agenda, we have no connections with anyone. I don't think anybody right now in Pakistan is growing up to say, I want to be the next Azhar Ali. Hello and welcome to a new episode of Silly Point. Today we're going to discuss what the future is for Pakistan cricket. We all know what's going on in the current test match. Brilliant batting by Butler and Zach Crawley, no doubt. But I think the result is pretty much a foregone conclusion.
You never know. Weirder things have happened in cricket.
But those weirder things actually have always happened against Pakistan. They've never happened for Pakistan. So, especially with the bat, you have spells of Wasim and Waqar taking 8 wickets in a session to win a match, but I don't think it's going to happen
with the batting. True.
In this
I
match.
mean, we always talk about Azhar Ali and Asad Shafiq underperforming. Maybe, tomorrow or today will be their day where they go kick on and score a brilliant match-saving 100, 150. Who knows?
I hope I eat these words up later, but I doubt that's going to happen. And then so because of this test match and Pakistan's recent performances in test cricket, especially Azhar Ali and Asad Shafiq, we'll come to the match in our midweek episode, discuss it and dissect it in greater detail once the full extent of the damage is known. I don't think it's going to get any better from here. But that got us thinking Pakistan's performances, and especially the failure of Asad and Azhar Ali, particularly, what the future holds for Pakistan's batting over the next 2-3 years. I think the bowling has taken good shape. The performances are inconsistent, but you can see Shaheen, Naseem, Abbas, kind of being that core pace attack, and then with Sohail Khan, Imran Khan Jr., a couple of other options on the bench. So you have a decent pool of bowlers, fast bowlers at least. Yasir Shah has shown glimpses that he still has it in this series. And to be honest, he is the best that Pakistan have got.
Shadab, obviously.
And Shadab, So Shadab over the long term, I think he has that potential. So although Pakistan have been pretty horrible over the past day or so with the ball, and it's frustrating, but as a fan, that's something I wouldn't say, obviously, I don't mind. I can accept, because it's a very young bowling attack. So you will always have these moments. Yeah, what has disappointed me more is with the bat, when you have players who had so much experience, failing again and again and again and again.
Just a point on this test match and the bowling. Pakistan haven't bowled particularly badly. It's just that on the first day, it was difficult conditions to bowl in. It was windy throughout the day. And as most players that play in England can attest to, when it's windy, it's extremely difficult to control the ball, whether the ball is swinging or it isn't.
Yeah.
Personally, opening the bowling in England, whatever level of matches we play, I have found it difficult at times to, actually bowl well, bowl decently, bowl straight.
Yeah.
With the wind. So I think that's a great learning experience for some of the younger guys like Naseem and Shaheen, and that will hold them in good stead on future tours. So if you think of this as a learning experience, then you'll see the benefits of this in whenever Pakistan tour England next.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the big point. You have to look at the longer term.
Yeah.
For example, like people with the bat, Asad and Azhar failing again. It doesn't, like, this is probably their last tour of England, but I hope it is their last tour of England, or their last tour or their last tour anywhere else, to be honest. But the problem also is that there isn't anyone else ready, and I think and that's what we'll come on to today. Yeah. What backup options do we have? And again, I'm pretty sure what's going to happen is Asad and Azhar, they might get a solid 50 in the second inning or in the match, and just save their place for the next 3-4 series. And that's what always happens in Pakistan cricket. The last game of the series, one batsman gets a good 50-60, which has no impact on the match, but it just saves their place for the next 2-3 years, and that's the disappointment. And I think that might happen again here.
Sure. Just on your point about not having enough backups or enough players ready to take over from these guys, or just to put pressure on the current players. I think nowadays domestic cricket all over the world, whether it's Pakistan, England, India, Sri Lanka, wherever, the quality of cricket isn't that great. It's very difficult to get,
Zach Crawley fans will disagree, but okay.
well, no, I mean, Zach Crawley is a great example because his first class average is what, maybe 30, 35. He
Yeah.
scored before this double hundred. He scored 3 first class hundreds. So this is only his 4th first class hundred. And that just gives you a clean story there. It's very difficult to, pick a player from domestic cricket and say, okay, he's averaging 50 or he's averaging 40. And then, he's actually going to translate that at the international level.
Yeah.
So I think along with your records at the domestic level, coaches and whoever talent identification managers are, they need to look at other things, maybe technique, maybe how they're performing under certain specific scenarios,
Yeah.
how they're doing against the second new ball, for example, in a first class game. Are they able to accelerate? How are they building their innings? So things like that have to come into play for players to be picked. Zach Crawley is a great example. Like I said, it's so weird. He hasn't ever played for England A.
Yeah,
He's
I
just
know
been,
exactly.
picked. He's just been picked for the Test team straight away. So I think that's a great example of what other countries. Countries like India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, they've been doing that anyways. They would pick players from the under-19s. They would pick players from nowhere and make them play international cricket, and those players would do brilliantly. But I guess teams like England and Australia are now catching up to that. So I don't think, I know when you say that, oh, there are not enough ready replacements, that might be the case looking at the stats, but maybe, the coaches and the setup needs to be a little more innovative in the way they think and in the way they pick players.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and that's what they need to do. Like, I would rather have, a younger player. I don't know, someone like even a Heather Ali, who is more of a T20 specialist.
Yeah.
But I'd rather he would have, failed and scored those 10s and 20s that Asad Shafiq has been scoring.
Yeah.
Because at least you see some long-term returns, hopefully, right?
True. Yeah.
The problem with Asad, and I've been saying this since day one, I know there are quite a few fans around. Let us know in the comments if you are an Asad Shafiq fan. But um, I just cannot understand why that guy has been playing so long in that team, and but just because there was no one else. I mean, the only replacement that they sort of had was 35-year-old Fawad Alam, who, whatever you say about him, let's see how he goes in this test match. Hopefully he does get some runs for his own good. But even then, he's not a long-term answer. He can fit in for a series here and there, but I don't think he's someone you can see carrying Pakistan cricket forward for 3-4 years.
Yeah.
And speaking of,
sorry, go on.
I was just saying, speaking of carrying Pakistan cricket forward, obviously the only name that does come to mind is Babar Azam.
Yeah, of course.
The batting order must revolve around him, and to a certain extent, Shan Masood, who is also 30, but I think he still has 3-4 years in him.
Yeah, maybe longer. But, he looks fit. His technique is in good order. I know he did really well in the PSL in 2020 as well. He was captain of Multan Sultan, so there's a lot of potential there for Shan Masood to convert his test form into the ODI and T20 stage, and even potentially be captain for Pakistan one day. I feel personally.
I think he has to be, especially at the test level, he is the most natural choice.
Yeah.
And the only good thing for Pakistan that's come out of this series, I think, has been the performance of Rizwan. I think he, as a keeper and also as a batsman, has shown, although the first innings, I was very critical of him. He had a bit of a shocker with the bat, but he's improved, and he's shown that he can stick it out there and play aggressively with the tail if needed.
Yeah.
So that is one big tick in the box. So that's one position, I think, number 6 or 7, where Pakistan have some potential over the next, say, 4 or 5 years that they can go. Yeah. But the rest of it, the second opening slot, Abid Ali, I don't think is good enough. He got a 60, but after 3 chances, I think even I could score a 60.
Agreed. I think they need to look at someone like Imamul Haq as a more long-term option. Obviously, Imam is pretty young; he's 25. So he definitely needs to be looked at. No reason why he can't convert his ODI form into the Test match arena. I think all he needs is time and
Yeah.
opportunity. If he gets that, he will make it happen. That's my personal opinion.
Yes, I think I think they should have. They should have at least gone with Imam for one of the three games.
Yeah,
Obviously, it's a shame that the second Test match got washed out.
yeah,
But Imam and they can also be a little innovative, especially in conditions like England, South Africa, Australia, where it's tough for our opening batsmen to play. They can drop Azhar Ali, and they could have gone with Imam at three,
yeah.
because then you have sort of three opening batsmen. People with an opening batsman technique.
True.
Although Azhar Ali has a double hundred in Australia, I have no idea how he got that. But I think Imam as an opener, even at three, is not a
He's a
bad
good shout.
option.
Yeah, no,
Exactly.
certainly.
Or they can bring in someone like a Sami Aslam, who is still 24, 25.
Yeah,
Although recently, I think he's been pretty much out of form, even in the domestic game. But he's been to England a few years. In 2016, I think
I
yeah,
agree. Sami Aslam certainly when he played in England last, or when he played for Pakistan last, he looked like a good opener. Uh,
yeah,
you know, typical left-hander, almost in the same mold as Shan Masood, I think.
yeah.
Um, and I believe I think Sami Aslam is the highest run scorer in under 19 World Cups. I think that's the case. I think that's a record for him. He looked like someone who could be,
Yeah.
the next big Saeed Anwar, for example, or Amir Sohail in the Test matches. So certainly, he could get a chance once he gets back to form.
Yeah, and apart from that, then you're back to the old tried and tested names. I mean, Haris Sohail, he's also 30 plus. Is he in the next big middle order
So
batsman?
So my
Uh,
opinion on Haris Sohail is that, I think he's a pretty good ODI and T20 player, utility wise, batting wise, all of that spot on. But I think he'll struggle in Test matches, and I think his technique is not up to the mark, especially when it comes to playing in England, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa. I think he'll be found out there.
yeah, I mean that's the problem with any other Pakistani batsman, right?
No, not Babar Azam.
Yeah, except I think Babar is the exception to any conversation about Pakistani batsmen. And then apart from that, then I mean there are a few names out there. Usman Salahuddin, he's still 29, 30, so he probably has a few years
Yeah,
left in him.
yeah.
He's had a decent couple of years in the domestic circuit. But again, as we've seen with someone like Abid Ali, domestic form does not really translate
I
into.
agree. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's why I said it's, you have to complement your domestic stats with other things that you've seen. If, for example, if we're talking about a PSL match, if a young player has, probably scored 10 runs of three balls, and that he needed those runs to win the game for his
Yeah,
team, then I would say that needs to be given a lot of weightage as well. Not the fact that he just scored 10 runs of three balls, but
yeah.
just the fact that under a pressure situation he was able to remain calm and stable and be able to get those runs, get the runs required. I think things like that need to be considered when you're picking players for the national team.
No, exactly. I think, and that's also the issue. I know there are a lot of fans of Heather Ali. Let
Yeah.
us know if you are one. But he, based on just one PSL, like really, and even then he had a decent PSL. He wasn't exceptional. I mean, his average wasn't 50 plus,
Yeah.
but
I mean, he scored. He played 9 games, scored 238 runs, average of 30. Strike rate was impressive,
yeah,
162. I think the thing is, he's a six hitter.
yeah,
He's number 4 on the list of most sixes in the PSL in 2020.
yeah.
So he clearly is in that mold of six hitting.
We'll
Which
see. He might
I
get a
think is
chance
good.
in the. He might get a chance in the T20s against England, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
I
that
think he
might be a
should.
chance for. Yeah, he should. He definitely
He
should.
should definitely.
Um, but apart from that, I mean, again, we're kind of focusing more on the test
Yeah,
arena.
yeah,
Maybe he can be groomed into a test player.
yeah.
Um, but I think, well, we need to get rid of both Azhar and Asad, which I'm said for the 10th time. But um, Imam is a decent shout. I mean, if you can still have maybe Abid for a couple more years, he's 33 almost, so he can stick around. And then you have Imam at three, Babar should be number 4,
Baba
untouched at
should be a number 4. Yeah, yeah,
number 4 in Test matches at least.
yeah.
Um, and then 5, 6. I mean, you can try someone like Usman Salahuddin. You can try
Heather
maybe
Ali.
Haris Sohail, Heather Ali.
Yeah,
So you have, and that has to be. And then Rizwan, you have at 6 or 7.
yeah. I agree. I mean, in the long term, Rizwan at 6 and Shadab at 7 seem to be the right, seems to be the right way to go. And I guess with Shadab, obviously we saw his batting in England. His record is pretty good, but I guess the way he scores his runs is not,
Yeah, it's not a very
it's not
convincing.
safe. It doesn't look like it's safe. You feel like
Yeah,
he's getting out, he's going to get out every ball.
yeah,
I think that's something that Misbah and Yunus need to work on with him. But I think in the long term, he has the potential to be a good all
uh,
rounder, batting wise, bowling wise. So I think that he's got good potential to bat at number 7.
yeah. No, and there are a few batsmen in their mid 50s who have decent first class records. Saad Ali is one. He's had a couple of good years. I think recently, his form has gone down a little bit.
Yeah,
I think Imran Butt, he was a top scorer last year in the
right.
domestic series in Pakistan.
Okay,
He's an opening batsman. He's a good opening batsman, but
right.
his average was like 65 or something in the domestic. Um,
Yeah.
Overall, I think he's still under 40
Okay.
domestic average. But even Shan Masood's average is under 40, right? So,
Yeah.
like you said, it doesn't translate into
It doesn't
international.
translate. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I'd potentially give more weightage to PSL, to kind of PSL records, because over there in the PSL you've got international level players playing with you and against you. So I think how you perform there should be a good barometer. I mean, you take that, and
yeah,
along with that, you look at your domestic stats and you look at what you're doing in your domestic first class games and your
yeah,
domestic ODIs and T20s. So I think that's important. I was going to say that there are two other players I want to talk about. So one is Ahmad Butt.
yeah,
He's a bowling all-rounder,
yeah,
medium pacer. I think he did pretty well in the PSL recently. And the other one is Zishan Ashraf, who's a wicket keeper.
yeah. Yeah,
And
he
again,
also did decent in the PSL, I think.
yeah, yeah.
Not exceptional.
He's 28. So
Yeah,
Zishan Ashraf is 28. So he's relatively young, and he
yeah.
hasn't got a chance to play
Yeah. I think out of
national cricket just yet.
the young names, I think Ruhail Nazir is one more
Of course,
who
yeah,
again we had a good under 19 World Cup, the under 19 captain.
yeah,
But again, I would rather had him in hindsight, although it's too soon maybe for him.
yeah,
But I'd rather have him scoring 15, 20 runs and failing rather than Azhar Ali scoring 20 and then
yeah.
getting out and then have that counting for nothing.
I agree. I
And
agree.
to be
Yeah. So
honest, I know Pakistani fans very emotional, and especially after a performance like this, you're very demotivated and you don't want to talk about. But you would take a performance like this if you see some long-term improvement, and that's why I am disappointed as a Pakistan fan
yeah,
at how we've bowled in this Test match. But you do see some light maybe in the next 2-3 years that these guys can get better. Imagine
agree.
Naseem, 22 years old.
Yeah,
Shaheen, who's 25, 26 years old.
yeah.
Abbas, I think he can carry on for another 10 years at his 78 miles an hour. Um,
Yeah.
so I
So I mean,
think there is room for growth, but in the batting, I think that is the issue. And the names we've discussed, maybe it is about time that they are given a go.
yeah. I mean, like you said, there's no particular standout.
Yeah,
No particular standout batsman. But again, I think nowadays you have to pick players based on potential, and then
yeah,
the coaching setup has to come good. The coaching
yeah,
setup has to actually earn their money, basically.
yeah,
Once upon a time, you used to have coaches who would just allow players to come in and allow them to maintain their technique, their mental aptitude, and
yeah,
maybe a few tweaks here and there, and that's it. So because the players are doing on the job learning,
yeah,
they also need on the job training. It's
yeah,
like us, in a corporate job, when we join a new role, right?
yeah,
You spend almost 2-3 months
yeah. Just learning.
skilling yourself, learning about the business
Yeah,
and stuff like that. So I think a similar thing has to be applied for young players coming
yeah,
in. So I don't see why Rohil Nazir can't be given a chance. I don't see why Haider Ali can't be given a chance.
yeah,
I mean, Pakistan have got a great coaching setup.
yeah,
Have Misbah as your head coach and to have Vakar Yunus as your bowling coach, I think that's incredible. And I know recently Mohammad Yusuf has
Yeah,
been appointed the batting coach of the National Cricket Academy, and
yeah,
Mohammad Zahid has been
yeah,
appointed the bowling coach of the NCA. So I think those are really good appointments. And yeah, I don't see why, if you bring in new players, I don't see why these older players who are now in the management, they can't actually
yeah,
train them, coach them, technically,
yeah.
mentally, coach them to get better.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this is, again, given the current situation and the current season performance, it's very hard to look at a bright future. But I do see some light at the end of the tunnel. With the current coaching set, I think it's been the first time in a long, long time where you have these big names in the right positions.
Yeah,
Although it's always been a tough one for Pakistan because there are a lot of ego clashes and internal politics and stuff where people don't survive in these jobs for longer.
yeah,
Um, but hopefully, this time it works, and there are very big names of Pakistan cricket, and hopefully they can live up to their playing careers as a coach, and
yeah,
help in the development of these younger players. And the second thing I think is also the structure of domestic cricket and how that
yeah,
evolves. That
yeah,
is very crucial. And I know if you speak to most of the professional players, uh, professional domestic cricketers, they have been very unhappy with the move from departmental cricket to a kind of more regional format.
yeah,
Uh, but if you ask me as a fan, again, I don't know the ins and outs of the detail, because I know the format of department cricket was that these cricketers get jobs, and if in case their careers don't work out on the cricket field, they can get jobs within these departments.
yeah,
I mean, that's good, especially in a country like Pakistan, where it's not the most flourishing economically, and they have their priorities of looking after their families and this and that. But
yeah,
when you come to a sport and an international level sport, and this is something that's very easy for me to say, given that I'm not part of it, and you need to be a bit more ruthless and a bit more cutthroat. That if you're not good enough, then you're not good enough.
yeah,
And I think that culture will need to flourish, and that's how we've seen the Australian teams, and that's how we've seen the current Indian team evolve, where you have a domestic structure, based on regions, and that's how it has to be. Like, why do you have Habib Bank or like Karachi
mm,
Electric having their cricket team? Like, why? It's better to have them as sponsors, for them to sponsor these regional teams, and then kind of bring in money into the sport that
yeah,
way.
yeah.
Um,
So my opinion is slightly different in that I could imagine. So I don't know how many first class teams were there when you had the departmental teams. Were there like 10 or maybe more
there were
than
more.
10?
There were like 12. Yeah, it changed pretty much
12.
every year, but yeah, 10 or 12.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and now there are six, I think,
yeah,
six regions, right? So obviously that's a decrease. But if you look at England, 18 counties. If
yeah.
you look at India, um, what
30.
30 teams,
Yeah, but
30
yeah,
35 Ranji Trophy teams. Obviously India is a much bigger country, so
yeah.
hence you've got you've got more teams. But I know England as well, they're thinking of reducing the number of county teams. But if you really think about it, James Anderson, right, was brought through the Lancashire
Yeah,
academy system, and Lancashire now in Division 2,
yeah,
right? Owen Morgan played all through for Middlesex, and Middlesex is in Division 2. Stuart Broad was from Leicestershire.
yeah.
Leicestershire obviously is still in Division 2. But, it's it's weird. I mean, I don't know, maybe the fact that you have so many
But I
teams,
think that the gap between Division 1 and Division 2 in England isn't that big.
it is. I mean, that's what everyone says, that there is a big gap between Division 1 and Division 2. You've got a lot of players who make the switch,
Yeah,
who make a county switch so that they can play more Division 1 cricket, so that they get recognized more.
yeah. I mean that
Mm.
happens. That's fine. And look, England is probably an exception, I'd say, to that, given the number of teams. But I think they also have a very strong structure, where every team has 6, 7. I mean, we've sort of experienced this ourselves, playing in the UK,
Yeah,
where every small club or county
yeah,
has 10 different teams, and you
yeah,
work your way up the ranks,
yeah.
and they have the resources and everything. So that's a very different situation.
True.
And the domestic clubs or regions in Pakistan don't even have 1/10 of the resources,
Yeah, that's true.
compared to that. So that's one part of it, obviously.
But I know for a fact as well that it's not. So you've got the six regions, but then below those regions, you've got like there's been a pathway that's been developed for
Yeah.
cricketers to come through and
Yeah.
play for the regions. So I
Yeah.
think that pathway is very important as well. That is the most important thing, to keep
Yeah.
these players focused,
Yeah.
to maintain their discipline, to maintain their fitness, and
And
beyond that, I think the talent is there.
I think that's why it's very, very, very important for Pakistan cricket that they have very good performances consistently from Babar Azam, because he is someone people can look up to.
Of course.
Because he has that discipline in his fitness and
Yeah.
his development of his game, and we've seen that recently how he's improved as a Test batsman.
Yeah.
So as the more he performs, there'll be one person for the youngsters to look forward to. Okay, I want to be like Babar Azam.
True.
I
That's
mean,
true.
anybody else? I don't think anybody right now in Pakistan is growing up to say, I want to be the next Azhar Ali.
Yeah,
I want to be the next Asad Shafiq.
Yeah,
So
I
Babar
guess
Azam has that in him, right?
yeah,
But coming back to the domestic structure, what really has disappointed me, and for those who watch us, I think if there's one reason for you to watch us and learn about cricket, is because we have no agenda, we have no connections with anyone, in any country. We're not promoting anyone here. But a lot of these domestic players, and you see them having all their YouTube channels and stuff, and absolutely going ballistic on the current structure of how the powers have devolved and this and that. But if you have 12 department teams, if all it's not like, and the way they presented it, we have 12 teams, and each team had 20 players each. That's 240 players, and now it's 6 teams of 120 players overall. So you've just slashed the pool by half, and how the people are just unemployed now. But that's how it should be, right? Those extra 120 odd players should just move into the lower division of the same region.
Yeah.
It's so simple, and I don't know why they don't get it, or they just don't want to portray it like that way. It's a very simple structure.
True.
Where you have a bottom approach where they can move into the second 11 or the third 11 of a specific region.
Yeah.
That's how it should be.
Yeah, I think obviously there must be something about pay as well, because
Yeah.
if you were playing for a domestic team, at the topmost level, obviously your pay would have been at the highest level it could be, but then you're now being downgraded to your second team or your third team.
Yeah, but that's an incentive for you to play well.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. But I'm just saying that I guess that's why people are up in arms about it. And maybe the PCB can do something about that. So as soon as you change a system, right, there's going to be an uproar. There's going to be it's a step change, right?
Yeah.
It's a step change. So maybe the PCB needs to bridge the gap there for some of these players, who are now going to play in lower divisions, maybe bridge the pay gap for 1 or 2 years. And then once the system beds in, going forward, they maintain this, and that's how it will always be known. So I think because it's a step change, that's why people are bound to question it and bound to say, oh, it's not right, it's wrong. But I think if the PCB have the right thought process behind it, which I now think they do, because Wasim Khan has gone from Leicestershire to the PCB to become the is he the CEO? I think he's the CEO, right? So he's running.
He's like the managing director, but yes,
the MD. Basically, he's running the day-to-day activities of the PCB. Which I think is really good for them, because he's got that English background, and he can bring what has happened in the county system to there. And so I feel like they've got the right thought process, and if they just bridge that gap for the players who are struggling with the pay for a year or two, that will obviously help them with financial security, and also give them the motivation to keep doing well and keep pushing for higher honors. So I think that eventually, if this system is maintained maybe over the next 3, 4, 5 years, I think it's going to be very beneficial to
and the last thing I'd say to again, the people who think the Pakistan, with the old system or whatever, they still produce the likes of Wasim, Waqar, Inzamam, Yusuf. They came despite the system, not because of the system.
Exactly.
If you would, then you would have had more and more of these players. You would have had 3 or 4 Babar Azams over the past decade.
Yeah, if you had a good system in place.
Exactly. The best example to compare Pakistan to obviously has to be India, right? And now you look at India today. I mean, okay, even if Kohli and Sharma retire, they know who is going to be the next 3, the next 4. They have Prithvi Shaw, they have Gill ready, they have Rishabh Pant, KL Rahul. They have a whole line of batsmen ready to take over, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just the nature of cricket in India and Pakistan. Pakistan will have a whole battery line of bowlers ready to take
Yeah.
over from the incumbents, and India have a whole line of
No, but
batsmen.
now India's bowling is very good.
India's bowling has come up
Their
significantly. Yes,
their
I agree.
second
Our
grade, like
bowling
the
is
second grade bowling attack is what, Umesh Yadav.
Umesh Yadav, Bhuvaneshwar Kumar,
Yeah, exactly.
and there are a few other
I mean, there are
youngsters
a
who
few
are
like
pretty good.
Saini and
Yeah,
Khalil Ahmed. Those are decent.
yeah, Naveed Saini is pretty quick. He regularly bowls 140, 145, which is great for us. Bhuvneshwar Kumar, once upon a time, was, for a short period of time, he was the best bowler we had across formats. So
Yeah,
injuries have troubled him a bit. But yeah, I do agree that um, the likes of Asim Wakar have come through despite the system.
exactly. It does. It is a change. It's a transition, and it's something that does take time. And I guess I know Pakistani fans are very impatient. I am one of those. But I think at the end of the day, you need to see light at the end of the tunnel. And if you see that transition happening, like England did, right? I mean, look at England 2015, and now they're world champions.
Yeah, true.
You have to go through that phase of transitioning. Okay, it was in the white ball format, and they had to change their attitude completely.
Yeah,
That's now also translating into their test arena.
I agree. I completely agree. They've like I said before, they've done away with looking at averages in the county
Yeah,
championship and looking at other things.
yeah,
So Butler's selection, continued selection, has always
exactly.
been a question mark. But if you look at his batting now,
Yeah,
different level altogether. I mean, to do that over 2 or 3 test matches in a row, to come in and save your team
yeah,
when you've been 100 for 5, 100 for 4, I think that requires some special courage, which clearly Butler has. His keeping is a different matter.
yeah.
We can discuss that at another time when England go to India in Feb. What
Yeah,
happens then. But in terms of his batting and his courage and his temperament,
yeah.
no doubts. Incredible selection.
Yeah, no, I agree. And just coming back to Pakistan and their future, I think that the next tour that they have, well, unofficially, I think nothing's been officially announced, but
Yeah,
I think either South Africa or Zimbabwe are looking to come to Pakistan.
right.
If it's Zimbabwe at home, I hope they actually go with the youngsters,
Yeah,
because Azhar and Asad are going to go and smash 200s in that and secure themselves for another 10 years. Um, but the next big test is the away series in New Zealand. I think that's in
right.
December or January, and
Okay.
I really hope that for that they make the big changes. I mean they'll have a couple of months gap, so
Yeah,
they can groom whoever they want or
yeah,
kind of make the changes.
yeah. Which is when hopefully Pakistan will have their domestic
Yeah,
cricket starting as well. So you'll have the selectors will have a month or two of domestic cricket
yeah,
to look back on and pick the players that they want to. But no, I agree that it's time. It's time to move on from Azhar Ali and Asad Shafiq and bring in some of the more younger players. Yeah, that's my opinion.
I couldn't agree more. Um, so that's our thoughts. Let us know what you think. Uh, do Azhar and Asad deserve another chance? Do we need to live off their legacy for the next 5 years as well? Or who do you think are the next who do you think is the next big thing in Pakistan cricket? Who is the next big batsman? Is it
Apart from
Haider
Babar
Ali?
Azam.
Apart from Babar Azam.
Yeah,
Uh,
we know he's made it already, so we don't want to hear about Azam. But anyone else that I guess that the audience.
yeah, who's the Indian equivalent, I guess, to someone like KL Rahul or Shreyas Iyer in Pakistan? Do we
Yeah,
have that? If there's anyone who can
I think
take
that's
over
a
from
bit
that.
harsh, but yeah, maybe with this structure, maybe in 5 years' time we can have this discussion again, and
Yeah.
then see what happens.
But yeah, let's see. So yeah, let us know in the comments. As always, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And thank you for watching.